Hello and welcome to my latest video. This video, as promised yesterday, is the video featuring the top 10 English-born boxers of all time. Now this video has a surprise in, but we'll go through him when we get to him. So, who is in 10th place? Now these are my new rankings, so things have moved around a little bit. Okay, so let us go to 10th place, and 10th place actually scores Terry Downs, not someone I'd personally put in my top 10, but Terry Downs ranks in 10th place. Terry Downs beat 3 world champions, he scored 3 wins against champions, and he also beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters, scoring 2 wins against Hall of Famers in his career. Now Terry Downs scored 1 title fight win, he made 0 title defences, and he scored 1 title fight KO. And in terms of overall career, Terry Downs comes in with a total of 28 knockouts scored. He was pound for pound rated for 1 year, but he was never pound for pound number 1 rated. And Terry Downs scored 3 wins against pound for pound ranked fighters, and he scored 1 win against a pound for pound number 1 fighter. Good morning, Martin. Oh, afternoon, Martin, sorry. We're both still in a lapse, I think. Well, it's just seasonal adjustment disorder. Wink, wink. We can say it's that, mate. Yeah, it's... So, yeah, Terry Downs in number 10. So he captured 1 world title, he captured 1 lineal title, and of course, as world middleweight champion, 1 undisputed title. So on we go to number 9, and number 9 is Freddie Mills, okay, the former light heavyweight. Now Freddie Mills beat 1 world champion, he scored 1 win against a champion. Freddie Mills beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, scoring 1 win against Hall of Famers in his career, and he scored 1 world title fight win, he made 0 title defences, and he scored 0 title fight KOs. Freddie Mills did score a career total of 55 knockouts overall. He was pound for pound rated for 1 year, and he also, like Downs, was never pound for pound number 1 rated. Now, Freddie Mills did score 1 win against a pound for pounder, but scored 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And in terms of world titles, Freddie Mills captured 1 world title, he captured 1 lineal title, and of course 1 undisputed title. So on we go to number 8 in the 10 greatest English-born boxers, okay, and this fighter is Naseem Hamed, a fighter who I started watching when he came around, and I watched his whole career, watched him go. Many exciting fights I could remember. Very colourful character, great puncher. Naseem Hamed, okay, beat 10 individual world champions. He scored 10 wins against champions. And Naseem Hamed, up to now, has beaten no Hall of Fame fighters, thus scoring 0 wins against Hall of Famers. Naseem Hamed did have a large title fight record, okay, scoring 16 title fight wins. He also made a massive 15 title defences, and he scored 14 title fight knockouts from 16 wins. Now Naseem Hamed didn't have a large career, he scored a lot of knockouts from his fight total at 31 for his whole career, and Naseem Hamed was pound for pound rated for 3 years in my all-time rankings. He was never pound for pound number 1 rated though, and he scored 2 wins against pound for pound fighters, Naseem Hamed, but 0 wins against pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. And Hamed, okay, captured 3 world titles, okay, he also captured 1 lineal title, and Naseem Hamed captured 0 undisputed titles. So from Naseem Hamed in number 8 we go to number 7, okay, and that fighter is Randy Turpin, pictured fighting the man who has scored one of boxing's greatest upset wins over Sugar Ray Robinson. Randy Turpin, okay, the tickler, which I was quite strange, beat 1 world champion, okay, he scored 1 win against a champion, and he beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, Sugar Ray Robinson, scoring 1 win against him. Now Randy Turpin scored 1 title fight win, of course, that great upset win. He made no title defences, of course, losing the rematch, and he scored 0 title fight KOs. Now Randy Turpin scored a career total of 45 knockouts. He was pound for pound rated for 1 year, but Randy Turpin was never pound for pound number 1 rated, and he scored 2 wins against pound for pound fighters, and he scored 1 win against a pound for pound number 1 fighter. Randy Turpin captured 1 world title, 1 lineal title, and 1 undisputed title. So Turpin comes in number 7. When we go to fighter number 6, okay, is a UK fighter who never gets mentioned. And he's very, very underrated, okay, Peter Kane. Now, Peter Kane, okay, beat 2 world champions. He scored 2 wins against champions. And Peter Kane beat no Hall of Fame fighters, scoring no wins against Hall of Famers in his career. And Kane scored 3 title fight wins. He made 2 title defences, and he also scored 2 title fight KOs. Now, Peter Kane scored a total of 54 knockouts in his career. He was pound for pound rated for 1 year, but he was never pound for pound number 1 rated. And Peter Kane scored no wins against pound for pound fighters and also no wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. Peter Kane, to give you an example, had dozens of fights against rated opponents and scored many good wins. Of course, at some point on my career videos in the future, I of course will get to him and feature him on a career video where you will learn more. But he's always one of those fighters, a bit like Charlie White, who never gets mentioned as a UK fighter, really. I know that Henry Haskup himself respects Peter Kane a great deal, and for good reason. So Peter Kane captured 1 world title, okay, captured 1 lineal title and 1 undisputed title. So Peter Kane is 6. Now the next one, okay, is Joe Calzaghe. And people say, well, he's Welsh, and indeed he is Welsh, okay, but my videos are based on where you were born. So even though Joe Calzaghe is Welsh, he was actually born in Hammersmith, London, okay, which is England. So thereby, by that little loophole, he has to go in these ratings and not the Welsh rankings. So Joe Calzaghe, okay, in 5th place, okay, beat 10 world champions. He scored 10 wins against champions. And Joe Calzaghe beat 2 Hall of Fame fighters, and he scored 2 wins against Hall of Famers overall. Calzaghe has, okay, 22 title fight wins from 22 title fights. He scored a joint division record of 21 world title defences, and he scored 11 title fight KOs. Now, Calzaghe scored 32 knockouts himself throughout his career overall, and he was pound for pound rated for 5 years in my all-time rankings. Calzaghe was never pound for pound number 1 rated. He scored 2 wins against pound for pound fighters and 2 wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Joe Calzaghe, okay, captured 4 world titles. He captured 1 lineal title, of course, at super middleweight, and he captured 0 undisputed titles, but he was unified, just not undisputed. So there is Joe Calzaghe in 5. When we go to number 4, it is the great Jack Kid Berg, pictured fighting the great, is it Jimmy McLarnin? I believe it is. I think it's Tony Canzoneri. I'm trying to remember now. So anyway, Jack Kid Berg, okay, beat 5 world champions, okay, he scored 8 wins against champions, and Kid Berg beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters, scoring 4 wins against Hall of Famers overall. Kid Berg scored a total of 7 title fight wins, he made 6 title defences, and he scored 2 title fight KOs. Now, Jack Kid Berg, okay, scored 61 knockouts in his career. He was pound for pound rated for 2 years, but he was never pound for pound number 1 rated. And Jack Kid Berg, okay, scored 8 wins against pound for pound fighters, and he scored 1 win against a pound for pound number 1 fighter. Yeah, it's Tony Canzoneri he's fighting. Why did I say McLarnin? He didn't even, never mind. So Jack Kid Berg, yeah, I always think sometimes in fights from certain angles, McLarnin and Canzoneri, when you look at them frontally, they look very different, but from certain angles, they look similar. I think it's the hairline. So yeah, there's Jack Kid Berg, no doubt one of UK's great fighters, very, very underrated. So Jack Kid Berg, okay, captured 1 title, he captured 1 lineal title, and 0 undisputed titles. So that leaves us 3 fighters left on our top 10 greatest English boxers, and in 3rd place is Lennox Lewis, who ridiculously to this day, and I never understand this ridiculousness, people say he's not British, he's Canadian. Well, no, he's not Canadian, okay. I'm born in Britain, okay, so if I move to Poland and live there 15 years, I'm not Polish, okay, I'm British because I was born in Britain, and Lennox Lewis was born in Britain, and I always found this idea that he's not British and he's Canadian when he was born in London quite amusing, to be quite honest, because I never understood the mentality of saying why someone born in Germany who moved to France is then French, not German. And I always find it ridiculous and also rather strange that many people can't understand and simply do, use the internet that we have available nowadays and say, where was he born? Oh, yes, he was born in London. Oh, and then he went to nursery school in London and went to primary school in London before his mum moved to Canada for work. Never mind. So, Lennox Lewis in number 3. I always find it really strange why, even to this day, people say he's Canadian. He's not. He was born in Britain. Okay, he's British. Lennox Lewis, beat 14 world champions. He scored 14 wins against champions, and he beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters individually. Lewis also scoring 3 wins against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Lennox Lewis scored 15 world title fight wins. He made 14 title defences, and he scored 10 title fight KOs. Now, Lennox Lewis scored a total of 32 knockouts in his career. He was pound-for-pound rated for 5 years, but he was never pound-for-pound number 1 rated. And Lennox Lewis scored 3 wins against pound-for-pound fighters and 2 wins against pound-for-pound number 1 fighters. And in terms of world titles, Lennox Lewis captured 6 world titles. He captured 2 lineal titles and no undisputed titles. Again, this is another one of those. Some things in boxing drive me mad. Okay, they say Lennox was undisputed champion because now get the ridiculousness of this, right? Lennox Lewis was undisputed champion because the WBO wasn't recognised by the other 3 alphabet body belts, as if they're the be-all, end-all in who decides what a belt is. They're not. They can for unified fights if they recognise it as a unified fight with their belt. Yeah, true enough. Right, so take that, okay? Lennox Lewis is undisputed because WBO want a real belt. But yet they call Joe Calzaghe a world champion from the 90s. The WBO belt wasn't recognised until October 2006. So they'll still call Joe Calzaghe a legitimate world champion before that. But then for Lennox Lewis, they'll twist it and say, oh, well, he was undisputed because WBO want a real belt. But yet they'll call Joe Calzaghe a legitimate world champion before that. So anyway, yeah, Lennox Lewis, the one thing I will say about Lennox... One thing I will say about Lennox Lewis is he was a great heavyweight, and as time has gone on, during his time he was very criticised. Some people thought it was boring, some people thought it was too safety first, some people... he got a lot of criticism. A lot of people, I remember, criticised him in David Tua fight for saying he didn't try and get Tua out of there. I mean, to me, he fought the smart fight. Tua was a murderous puncher, and Lewis outboxed him fairly easily. But he did get a lot of criticism in his career. But as time's passed since he retired, after beating Vitaly Klitschko, who would then go on to be a 3-time champion himself, as time's passed, a bit like Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was also attacked widely in his career, but now has a status because of what he did. Lennox Lewis has gone the same way, and he's now way more respected and credited for what he did than at the end of his career in the early 2000s. He's now way more respected, and deservingly so. Again, I watched Lewis at the Olympics. I watched his press conference when he signed with Maloney. I watched his whole career, and what a great journey it was, and what some great fights and great wins. So yeah, Lennox Lewis certainly deserves his top 3 place without a shadow of a doubt. But that leaves us 2 more to go. Okay, so in second place it is the 3-weight undisputed champion Bob Fitzsimmons, who was one of the early scientific fighters, as in he would often, sometimes I remember reading an old interview and he said he would hit fighters in certain parts of the body to see what the reaction was, and if there was no reaction, he'd forget that one. If it got a reaction or got the man to back off, he'd then target that on other fighters as part of his, game. Very, very hard puncher. One of boxing's great pound-for-pound punchers. So Bob Fitzsimmons, beat 4 world champions. He scored 4 wins against champions, and Fitzsimmons beat 4 Hall of Fame fighters, scoring 4 wins against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Fitzsimmons scored 5 world title fight wins. He made 2 title defences, and he scored 4 title fight KOs, and he scored a total of 57 knockouts in his career. Now, Bob Fitzsimmons is one of the early great pound-for-pound rated fighters fighters. He was pound for pound rated for nearly a decade at 9 years. Fitzsimmons was pound for pound number 1 for 2 years. And overall, he scored 8 wins against pound for pound fighters, but scored no wins against pound for pound number 1 fighters. And Fitzsimmons, of course, that 3-weight haul, he captured 3 world titles, 3 lineal titles, and 3 undisputed titles. So without a shadow of a doubt, like Lennox Lewis, a legitimate English great. Of course, I will cover the Irish boxers, the Scots and the Welsh as well, etc. Those videos will come in time. But yeah, Fitzsimmons certainly deserves, like Lewis, his top 3 place. But that leaves one left, and of course Martin has hit the nail on the head. In my new ratings, still, as in my old ratings, the greatest English-born boxer of all time is the great Ted Kid Lewis, who travelled from around flyweight, twice captured the undisputed welterweight championship from one of the greatest welterweight fighters of all time, and then after that proceeded to carry on through middleweight, light heavyweight, even challenging for the European heavyweight title against Carpentier, which was also a world light heavyweight title fight, go figure. But yeah, the great Ted Kid Lewis, without a doubt to me, is the greatest English-born boxer of all time. Kid Lewis beat 6 world champions, he scored 16 wins against champions, and he beat 3 Hall of Fame fighters individually, scoring 10 wins against Hall of Famers overall. Now, Kid Lewis scored 14 title wins, he made 10 title defences when the belt was on the line, and he scored 0 title fight KOs. Now, Ted Kid Lewis also has a massive number of knockouts for a UK fighter with a total of 78. He was pound for pound rated for 5 years, and Ted Kid Lewis was pound for pound number 1 rated in his career for 2 individual years. Now, Ted Kid Lewis scored 12 wins against pound for pound fighters. He also scored 7 wins against pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. And in terms of world titles, the great Ted Kid Lewis captured 2 world titles, 2 lineal titles, and 2 undisputed titles, winning and then swapping that belt with, like I said, the boxing marvel Jack Brayton himself. So great fighter Ted Kid Lewis, a legitimate, to me, top 10 all-time fighter, a true great who travelled all across the weights. He held British, Commonwealth or European titles at featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, challenged for world light heavyweight title, challenged for European heavyweight title, twice was undisputed lineal welterweight champion, just a true great. So yes, Martin, I'm not actually shocked, but you did well, Martin, you picked it. Let's see if you do as well on the Cubans or the Koreans. I don't know which I'm going to do next. But meanwhile, there is Ted Kid Lewis, he tops my list under my new ratings as the greatest English-born boxer of all time. So I will leave it there. I am the Boxing Librarian. I'm out for now.